you ever think about, like, what happens after all this?
What, like an afterlife?
Like
or
an
that sort of thing?
Yeah, but, like, you know how they say that, like, ghosts are what happens when someone had, like, unfinished business, yeah?
Yeah.
And you know how we both have ADHD, and stuff just gets, like, forgotten and shit?
Yeah.
Does that mean we're more at risk of becoming ghosts, or less at risk because our ghosts will have forgotten that we had the things to do, and we'll just be fine, just moving on?
I guess that's the question. Is it having unfinished business, or is it I know that I have unfinished business, I can remember things I haven't
Having that
completed.
drive, that desire.
Yeah, that sort of knowledge that I have to complete the things.
Yeah. Or is it like, fuck, I meant to post that letter?
Now see, all I'm thinking now is the worst of both scenarios, where it's like, I know I have unfinished business. I have like a little annoying scratch in my head that I have stuff I'm meant to do, but I don't remember what it is. So now I'm stuck as a ghost, unable to remember what my unfinished business is.
People at seances being like, oh, what do you need, oh spirit? I don't know.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Check the fridge. I've probably left the remote in there again. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, we just talk about the things we've done in the week, media-wise, and have a little giggle and do silly voices and stuff. How are you? Yeah.
How are you?
I'm a poorly little bean today.
You're a poorly little bean.
I'm a poorly little bean.
Aww.
It's fine, I'm getting the poorly little beanitude out the way so that, like, I can have a nice time when the end of the week comes. I'm getting the poorly bit out now.
What could possibly be happening at the end of the week?
Oh, well, we're probably going to be playing something the most of this upcoming weekend that we've played a little bit of already.
Well, speaking of play, should we talk about that then?
Let's talk about what we played this week.
Well, I was going to say, should we talk about that?
Yeah.
That thing that we didn't talk about last week.
Yeah.
Honest wink.
Yeah, we've played a little bit of Tears of the Kingdom.
I've played about 7 hours of Tears of the Kingdom.
I've played maybe 12 hours. So I've, like, not played a lot more, but I knew what I was doing with that starting section and did that a bit more sort of initial.
Oh, you did a separate 12 hours?
Oh, yeah.
I thought you meant you've done...
No, I started a separate save and did about 12 hours in it, which I sort of ran to try and see a lot of the core elements, but we'll avoid that, and we'll talk about that sort of next week. We'll just talk about what we played on our sort of first day together. Do you want to start?
Yeah. So it almost feels like it is trying to mirror that. Like, you've got, instead of the Great Plateau, you've got the Great Sky Islands. Yeah. You've got a whole, like, here is a space. Learn your way around it, and learn how things do. Yeah. Pick up bits.
Gain your starting abilities in a safe tutorial environment before we set you off in a big world of adventure like we did in Breath of the Wild.
And for this part of the game, at the very least, if you fall down, we will pick you back up again.
Yes. Now, what I will say about the Great Sky Islands, this Tears of the Kingdom's equivalent of the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, is that it definitely feels a bit more linear and authored in its design, in as much as the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild was like, there are 4 shrines to go to them in whatever order, there's no real, like, set path. Whereas this felt a lot more, here is one ability that will sort of help you get to the next, which will help you get to the next in a set order.
Yeah.
There was a bit more of a authored flow to it.
Work out things like how you're going to get through the cold area. You know, you need some way of staying warm. Is that going to be the warm doublet? Is that going to be making spicy food? Is that going to be working out how to make warm elixirs?
Yeah, it's not to say that, like, Tears of the Kingdom isn't as, once you get through its opening, it doesn't have that same see a thing, go where you want, follow your interest element as Breath of the Wild did. But its opening is definitely more, you need to get this ability, which will let you cross this to get to this ability, and you have to do them in order. And I think that, like, I'm already getting the sense that, like, Tears of the Kingdom's approach to Breath of the Wild's design is to go, look, we've got that big open world that is very broad, and you just go wherever you feel like going, but we're going to pepper around it more linear environments that are designed to be done in a set order, that are like, we've created a space we expect you to do in order, and dropped it into a world you can approach from any angle.
Yes, because I understand, like, there were a lot of complaints with the first one about the lack of proper dungeons and the lack of those sort of large structured things to do. And I get that. But also, like, I wanted something slightly meatier than most of the shrines. And don't get me wrong, some of those are quite chunky.
Indeed. And being spoiler light, I feel like that Great Sky Island is a good setter of expectation for the kind of thing that Breath of the Wild does, that Tears of the Kingdom does differently from Breath of the Wild, is having things like that where it's like, here is one big meaty section, and it is part of a larger world, but while you're in it, you feel like you're doing one sort of authored thing.
Yes.
And then you go off from there and you go off into the Breath of the Wild. It definitely is like, the most a Zelda sequel has ever just directly been a sequel.
Yes.
Like, we've had stuff like Phantom Hourglass, Link Between Worlds,
Spirit
Tracks. But this is like, if you have not played Breath of the Wild, this plot is going to take zero time to tell you catch you up on who these characters are or why you should care about them. It's like, no, Breath of the Wild just finished, go. Have your adventure.
I don't know necessarily if you need to have played Breath of the Wild. Given where the opening opens, which we've seen in the game trailers, like there's that whole, like, we're exploring, there is a discovery made, stuff happens.
It's one of those things where I don't think you need to have done, but I think that you will get a lot more out of it if you have, and that it's definitely banking a lot on, hey, it's that person you know from Breath of the Wild who, like, here's what's changed since you last saw them, or here's what's going on with them now.
Oh, yeah?
Just sort of jumps.
I mean, you've played more than it than I have, so I'll take your word on that.
We've reached an area fairly early on where a lot of NPCs were like, oh, it's Link, you're here. And things like that. It feels like there's a lot of, like, these are the characters from Breath of the Wild, and they're going, hello, it's you, let's continue the adventure.
I think we are maybe skewing that from the point of view of we have recently played Breath of the Wild. Now, no, don't get me wrong, like, there was, during that first playthrough, we, as soon as we hit the ground level, we popped out the amiibo, we ended up spawning Epona, and then realising we don't have a map and we don't know where the stables are off the top of our head. I was desperately trying to find Wetland Stable, and I thought it was both further south and further east. So I had completely misjudged how to get there and couldn't get there. Then we tried to go to Dueling Peak Stable, which is completely not where I thought it was, and as a result of evolution, harder to get to.
Yes, or at least harder to get to from where we were trying to get to it from.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was some awkwardness around that, and then there was just like a person standing on a rock doing that sort of like, I don't have a telescope, but I'm doing the shielding my eyes from the sun and peering look. I was like, you there, you might be able to help me out. And I was like, hang on, I know you from the other one.
Yeah, that was like the first NPC we talked to, and miraculously they happened to be like, hey, are you looking for a stable?
Why,
like,
yes.
We are. Here it is. Thank you, first NPC we talked to.
But yes, once again, it was as the crow flies. We still had no idea how to get that via land.
Yeah.
But, like, yes, I think there is a degree of we understand who those characters are.
And I'm not saying it's, like, to the exclusion of people who haven't played Breath of the Wild, but I mean more to the point of it's leaning into that more than any other prior Zelda sequel has done.
Yeah, but I think from the point of view of just an RPG where you are a character who exists in the world, I think it covers about the same amount of ground of the, hey, it's you. You went off
Yes.
to go and do the thing.
I guess what I'm trying to get...
glad you're back.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to get to is, if for the first time in the Zelda series, or at least in English, because I know they did this for A Link Between Worlds in Japan, but if they had called this Breath of the Wild 2, I wouldn't have been surprised, because it feels narratively like it is continuation of that story in some regards. And that's not a bad thing. I'm really enjoying that, but it's a thing that's like feels worth noting about it. But yeah, how are you feeling about the new abilities so far?
I would like more time with them. I am going to have that soon. I have the same problem with this that I do in Blender. Sometimes, I expect rotations to be possible at certain angles, and no matter which of the 3 twisty wheels I twist, forwards or backwards, they always seem to be going not quite the right direction I want to do. I just wish that it was in VR or something so I could reach up and go, no, I want it to go that way.
Right. So yes, Ultra Hand is one of the new abilities, and it's used for fusing items. Let's say you wanted to build a boat, and you wanted to stick some bits of wood together. You sort of glue them, and you can rotate objects around in 3D space using the D-pad. It sort of works like your replacement for magnesis in Breath of the Wild, but for anything that isn't alive.
Doesn't have to be metal?
It doesn't have to be metal this time. I think it's anything that isn't alive, generally.
Seems about right.
But the thing with this is that you're rotating these objects in 45-degree increments on 2 different axes, a vertical or horizontal. But sometimes, let's say you have a flat piece of wood that, as you're looking straight on at it, is at a 45-degree angle. Like, the left-hand side is sort of upward, and the right-hand side is downward.
Yep.
You would have to rotate it a couple of times so that it's...
degrees.
So that
Z-plane?
Yeah, so that the upraised angle is away from you. Then you'd have access to the vertical angle to flatten it and then rotate it back around.
Oh, yes.
And that takes some getting your head around.
Yes.
Particularly, knowing that you can invert the horizontal or vertical axis of rotation was really helpful for me. It definitely gets easier with practice, but it takes some getting your head around before it feels natural.
Yeah, I think I worked out what the issue was initially, and I think it's a difference of first person versus third person.
Yeah.
This was always going to be a third person game, and I think if I was thinking in first person, if I was literally in Link's position, I would be going, left is moving the bit that's nearest to me to my left. But from a third-person view, I want it to be the bit that's furthest away from me.
Yes, because this is what we were talking about, because I was trying to explain what... Because when I inverted the horizontal axis and was like, oh, this feels so much better, I was trying to explain it to you as, for me, the player, I want the front of it to move anti-clockwise when I press left.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head as to why they've gone the way they have.
It took me a while to get it. It's like, I think it was watching back the footage for editing A8 this week and going, of course that's what it is. It's like, no, that feels way more natural if you're moving the thing that's furthest away from you, because that's just how you operate as a person controlling.
Yes.
But I think in first person it would be very different. But that it's nice that there is that option, and the fact that you can go rotation, or what do they call it, interaction controls?
Yeah.
You can be mirrored, both X and Y separately.
Yes.
So you can go, if you're more of a pull back on the stick than a push forward on the stick.
Yeah.
But that's entirely separate from your camera controls. And I liked that was 2 separate things for 2 separate features.
Yes.
I may not have explained that well, but I think people understood.
In terms of the other abilities, there is Recall, which reverses an object through space and time along whatever path it took. So something that falls out the sky will go back up into the sky. Yep. A thing thrown at you will fly back at the person who threw it.
A thing that is going clockwise can go anti-clockwise.
Yep. And the thing that's neat about this is that an object will remember how long it was in positions on that path. So, if you hold an object up with Ultra Hand and hold it in place for a few seconds and then drop it then use recall, it will go back up to that position, then stay there for however long you were holding it there. It remembers the time coordinates as well as the position.
Yes.
And that is interesting.
I thought that was interesting. There was one puzzle quite early on where I was like, why isn't this thing recalling? And you were like, because you left it sitting there before you did recall for a while.
Yeah.
Because there was this thing that's like, I can't get to it. It's going to be really awkward to get to. I can't even reach it with Ultra Hand. What do I do? And you just went, just recall it. It'll go back where it was, where you could reach it. It's like, oh yeah, of course. And then because I'd sat there fanning about trying to get to it first, it took like a couple of seconds before it actually started moving back along its path.
Because it remembered it had been left there for a while. It's one of those abilities that feels very much like the Breath of the Wild abilities in terms of it is logically consistent in how it works.
Yes.
In a way that is initially like, oh, it's not working. Oh, wait, no, it is working exactly how it's meant to, and I just wasn't thinking about how it literally works.
I was thinking it do video games, not it exists in a logical, consistent
And that excites me. Like, I like that it doesn't work in the video game way, it works in the way that makes sense in the universe.
Yeah.
And that is exciting in terms of what it offers.
I think the biggest problem we both had is realizing that we are playing a 3D open world Zelda game where we do not have the paraglider.
Yes.
A number of times you especially jumped off things, mainly because you were on controls for a while, because my hands have not been feeling very good.
Yeah.
Too much work. But like, just the number of times you just like plummet off the side of a thing going, oh yeah, I don't have the paraglider.
Yes.
And now I've shattered my shins through my forehead.
I would generally recommend this anyway, but particularly if you've just been replaying Breath of the Wild and are used to having the paraglider, stick with the main story quests it offers you and follow the main plot until you get the paraglider.
100%.
I think that, like, yeah, you can go explore the world at your leisure before that. Just get the paraglider. Just keep doing main plot until it gives you the paraglider.
It's an essential bit of kit.
Yeah, the main game won't take that long. Like, if you follow the plot, it'll give you the paraglider pretty soon.
Yep.
Just get that out the way.
Oh, yes.
Oh, but
it's fun to explore.
Yeah. The other abilities that we've got, the other main ones you start with are Ascend, which lets you go up through any ceiling that isn't too angled and isn't too high above Link's head.
Yes. So none of that theoretical finding yourself under a bit of Skyland and ascending all the way up.
Yeah.
That might happen later. There might be like an Ascend Plus.
Yeah, at the start at least, you can't ascend all the way up to the Sky Islands, they're too high up. Oh. But no matter how thick the ceiling above you is, you can go all the way up through it.
You will just go through a weird black void for a while.
Yeah, so if you're inside like a cave at the bottom of a mountain and you ascend through the roof, you'll sort of breaststroke upward through the rock all the way up to the top of the mountain, pop your head out. And what I really like is that time pauses when you pop out, and you have a second to look around and go, do I want to pop out here? Or is it like absolutely terrifyingly full of high-level monsters and I'm just gonna go back down where I came from? Mm-hmm. Which I appreciate because obviously when you haven't yet ascended, you have no way of knowing what you're about to pop into.
Yes.
And I like that it doesn't punish you for going, no, you chose to ascend, you're here now. It's like, no, have a look around, just check that where you picked was okay.
Yep. I also like that it doesn't matter if there's stuff there, so you're not going to end up inside something.
Yeah.
Like, if you have gone up onto a ledge that had a chest on it, you'll be popping out the top of the chest.
Yeah.
Which will look weird as fuck, but also hilarious.
Yeah. Of the starting abilities, it's the one that, like, comes up the least frequently, or at least in my experience so far, but it works really well and is satisfying as a way to puzzle solve and get around. I'm enjoying it. It feels nice to use. And the last one, and I think the big one, is Fuse.
Yes.
Which is attach basically anything in the world to your arrows, your shield, or your sword.
Yes.
How are you finding this?
I'm quite enjoying it. The whole... like, they basically said, to all the people who hated weapon durability in the first one, we've made it worse. But don't worry. Now it is a fun sandbox to fuck about with, because all of the stuff that you were gathering throughout the first game, all the key size and the key swings and the bits of meat and whatever else, all of that stuff, you can just fuse it to your arrows.
Key eyeballs are now the most useful fucking thing in the game. They're great.
You know, if you've got... There are seemingly many more tree branches lying around, but also, don't worry, because you can attach a boulder to that, or a rock, even in a pinch, a rock to that. Like, it's worth making sure that you keep something big and heavy, like a boulder, because that is basically your sledgehammer equivalent.
Yeah.
And always in the first game, I wanted a torch, a korok leaf, and and some kind of boulder breaker device.
And this is particularly important because, like, not having access at the start of this to, you start Breath of the Wild with the remote bombs, which are a good way of breaking breakable walls, but now you don't have access to that, and you're like, okay, I need a reliable way to break open breakable stuff. Mm-hmm. Having a boulder you can stick to a branch, great for that.
Yeah, as tempting as it is to go, I'm going to turn all of my weapons into... I'm going to add spikes to them, or pitchforks, or whatever else I can find. Or I'm going to make them into those big fans like we saw in the gameplay trailer. Yes. Those are also kind of worth having, because you could just blow enemies off the side.
On the Sky Islands, those are great.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I will say about this that I think is really smart is that the game is constantly throwing at you resources for making makeshift weapons. Yeah. And it's like, the base that you start your weapon with is like, you know, it is important for determining things like whether this is going to be a, like, sword pattern, a spear pattern, or a heavy two-hander pattern to its movements. But what's a lot more important is attaching things onto your weapon to give it durability boost, to give it damage type modifiers or damage boosts. And basically every single weapon in the game, basically every single enemy in the game, when defeated, will drop a thing that could be fused to your sword to make a weapon.
Yes.
Most weapons, most enemies have a horn coming out of their head that might look like a blade of some description. Yeah.
This is all stuff we've seen in the trailers, all stuff we've seen in the gameplay trailer a while back.
But it means that, like, you're very rarely in that Breath of the Wild situation of, I have no good weapon available because my stuff broke mid-fight. Mm-hmm. Because worst case scenario, just grab a stick and go, cool, what enemy horns do I have in my inventory? Stick one on, there's a passable weapon. Yep. And that does a lot for, like, weapons in this feel more throwaway, but I think that's okay.
Yes. Like, there is this whole thing of you can take the thing off of, like, if you've attached, say, Zonai, what are they? Construct horn.
Yeah.
If you've attached a construct horn to a tree branch, you can take that off as it's starting to degrade and replace it with something else.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure how the durability stuff works yet.
So I think I understand how the durability stuff works now, and it's not how it was initially explained to me. So
the game does try and explain it to us.
Yeah. So it doesn't explain it well. Let's say you start with like a big stick, and that's your starting weapon, and you haven't fused anything to it. You use it, and it its durability goes down, and it says like, oh, the durability is about to run out, it's about to break, and you decide to fuse, let's say a construct horn onto it. That'll do two things. It will restore your stick up to its full durability. And give you 25 hits with your weapon in which the durability will not go down.
Okay.
Then the durability will start going down as it would usually. This is a one-time benefit you get for fusing an item to a weapon. So it's only the first time you fuse a thing to a weapon. It gives it... it fully refills its durability and gives it 25 hits in which it won't degrade, and then it starts degrading again as usual.
So it is kind of worth using the things that you get first before you start fusing things to them?
It has kind of taken me a while to get my head around that it's worth using the base version of the base weapon, and as it's about to degrade, then equipping something to it and getting its sort of second lease of life.
Yeah. It's good to know, because I didn't understand that from the explanation we got.
Neither did I.
Maybe reading through it again.
I went through it a second time. The game does not explain it well. It took a fair amount of practice to work that out, and trial and error.
Yeah. But, enjoyed what we've seen so far, or what I've seen so far. But yes, strongly agree. As much as you want to explore the new world, and I know we did for our first one, and I suspect you did for your second one a little bit, it is worth just going straight for the paraglider. Follow the plot until you get the paraglider, and then do whatever the fuck you want, because you will have much more fun being able to explore, and going, I'm going to hop over to that bit and not worry about plummeting.
Yeah, and I will say, from what I've seen playing through this, the game definitely does a bit more of here is a guiding hand that's not telling you have to do these things, but characters will tell you, essentially, look, there's a developer intended, this is probably what you should be heading towards, that's probably what's balanced to be a good thing for you to head for. It does a bit more of that than Breath of the Wild, and you can totally ignore that and just go fuck off and do things that you definitely aren't supposed to be doing yet and don't know why you're doing. You can go and do all that. But there is more of a, look, we've authored some more traditionally linear stuff, and in order to have things that are a bit more linear in there, we've had to decide what level of escalation makes sense for those linear things, and we're going to try and suggest to you, what we were thinking. You are still free to ignore it, and I appreciate that you can still ignore that, but it definitely does point you a potential path a bit more.
Part of me wonders how much of this is going to end up doing the RPG thing of, we're going to hold your hand a little bit at the beginning, and then it's going to get to a point where there are so many optional things that you can run around, gather all those things up, and then pop back at the end of the game when you're really loaded up with a bunch of stuff and all the best equipment, and you've, I guess you probably maybe expanded your item slots or whatever, and then go fight the big bad. That moment in Final Fantasy games where you've got 30, 40 hours in, and it's time to just go and do shit rather than just following the story.
Because here's how my the start of the playthrough's been for me. Honestly, has been very the game has a critical path that basically seems to be trying to introduce you to, these are the major gameplay loops that are available. And once we've introduced you to them, you're going to sort of leave your hands off to follow whatever of those you're interested in. If I had to guess, this doesn't have the Breath of the Wild style, there's Calamity Ganon, he's right there, defeat him, go to this waypoint marker if you want to fight the final boss straight away. If I had to guess, I feel like I could guess where I could go to maybe fight the final boss if I wanted to. I don't know
how you'd get there.
I have my guesses, but the thing is that, it definitely, where Breath of the Wild was come and have a go if you think you're hard enough.
And many did.
Yeah, it was look, we want to put this right in front of you as a challenge. This feels like this game is trying to be look, on a second playthrough, if you know where the final boss is, you can just go to it, but that's not what we want you to do with this one. We're trying to give you something different here. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. You're not ready. Go do all our love. You asked for linear plot. Come enjoy the linear plot we made for you.
That means we require a little bit of narrative control.
Yeah.
So
come do the nice little narrative we made for you, because you did ask for one of those. Unless you want to Google where the final boss is and just go fight him, in which case, whatever. Yeah. It feels like that's the energy.
And it feels like there's going to be a lot to this game, because obviously my first worry after the leak happened, because I know it went up online. Obviously, there were people who got Street Date broken copies, and there were other copies that went up on various sites that weren't just a dancing video. I was worried that we were going to get spoilers too quickly. And the one person who seemingly speedran it took, 4 days of 18-hour days?
Just to beat the final boss.
Just to beat the final boss, and then got, like, a little readout of you've done almost nothing of a fuck ton.
Yes, it was reassuring, and, like, having played a bit further than we did together when I sort of did my replay to grab some footage, I really get the impression that is the case. Like, I largely in my replay was, like, going and doing shrine stuff to play around with the various new abilities in a setting where I wasn't going to see too much of the world or spoil too much of the plot for myself. And, like, on paper, it looks like I've done a fair amount of that game by number of shrines, but there are so many fucking elements of that game that are not discussed in pre-release material that I have barely scratched the surface and spent, like, a little bit of time going, oh, this is just a whole huge element of this game, huh? Yeah. Okay, I'll come back to this later.
Yeah, and I think that's true of Breath of the Wild as well. I mean, you can say that Breath of the Wild is 120 shrines and a final boss.
Yeah.
But there's all the side missions, there's all the mini-games, there's just the general exploration of the worlds.
And I would say that's more true here than it was in Breath of the Wild.
I suspected that was probably the case.
Yeah, so, like, talking in spoiler-free terms, Breath of the Wild only had a section in the objectives for side quests, and most of them were, like, fairly short little things where you go and do a single thing, get a basic, often pretty generic reward, that was it. Tarrytown was really the only exception that was, like, a big multi-stage ongoing quest.
That one kid who wants all the fucking weapons.
Tears of the Kingdom has 2 different kinds of side quests, with 2 different names. There are side quests, which are, like, very Breath of the Wild-esque ones. And then there are side adventures. And I've not done many of them. But side adventures are basically, like, they're much more comparable to something like a Majora's Mask side quest, or in some way similar to, like, the Tarrytown stuff, where it is big multi-part quests where you're probably going to have to go to multiple parts of the world to do the thing. Going and one of the objectives in your side adventure might, you go follow a marker and it's like, oh, there's a side quest within the side adventure to go do. To go do these, like, bigger adventures that are more narratively tied to the world and also have, like, here is a more concrete reward that you know up front is like, there's something worth doing an adventure for. And there's a bunch of these. Like, I've seen the number of these that there are in there, and if all of them are like the couple I've experienced, there is a huge amount of, like, actually rewarding side adventure content in this game, which is exciting.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff where it's like, I feel like this isn't just random NPC I'm gonna forget, this is a memorable little story in the world. And that's really exciting.
It would be nice to get slightly more out of, because, like, the side, like, the characters I remember as a result of the quests are the kid with the fucking weapons, and only because I've never actually finished that thing, because I always get round to it too late in the game, and then it's like, I don't know where to find a Boko Club, everything's silver at this point.
Yeah.
Like that sort of stuff. The, obviously, Tarrytown and the bosun construction and all the other people involved in that. The person who runs the shield surfing minigame.
Yeah.
That's really kind of... Oh, and the kid that wants the dragonflies and the sister hates bugs.
So, talking in, like... I'm going to be, like, so vague that even if you've done this, you're not going to know what I'm talking about terms. But one of the first side adventures I found was basically, here's a set of armor that does something really cool. Do you want that? Cool. Here's a handful of waypoints around the map that are pretty spread out. At each of these places, there will be a little side adventure to do, and you'll have to do all of these little side adventures to earn this set of armor from me. And as you do the little side adventures, you will earn pieces of the armor based on how many you've done. And some of those side adventures were multi-part little side quests. It really branched out. Like, I didn't even finish that side adventure. I got one piece of the armor from it, having done quite a few segments of this quest that had gone off in a bunch of different directions. It's really good at, like, forcing you to, like, encouraging you to go back to places you've been to from Breath of the Wild and you think you know, and, like, leading you to them to go, oh shit, there's something new there that you might not have thought to check for if we hadn't, like, had this big sprawling little side quest take you.
I mean, quite early on there was a few things sort of people in the world just generally chatting about, and I was like, well, I know where that place they mentioned is. I want to go and find out what this mystery that's happening is, and what that's all about, because that sounds fascinating. But, like, there was other stuff where, like, today, actually, I went and played a bit more Breath of the Wild, because I was trying to get some horses. Finished up, horse stuff finished up before Tears of the Kingdom. And there was a place we had gone through during our initial play of Tears of the Kingdom where things were quite fortified.
Yes.
Like, not super fortified, but more fortified than I would have expected.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that seems to have come out of nowhere. I was like, no, it doesn't, because I literally just rode that place today while trying to take a horse back to a stable, and it's like, oh no, this is just an evolution of what's already here. That's very cool.
That's what's been really interesting for me, is I've been going back to playing Breath of the Wild, also collecting up those last few horses and stuff. And, like, I've been doing the same thing, is I've been looking for, like, the things that are signifiers of what we then saw in Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm like, yeah, no, I understand why that is there, I understand what's happening. There's a lot of things that are really curious, that are, like, I'm only seeing because I'm coming back to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's really intriguing. I'm really happy with what I've experienced of this so far.
Yeah, I think anyone who is worried that this is just going to be like a little makeover and like a lick of paint, and here's a request for £70 more, please, or 80. I have no idea how much this one is.
I think it's 70.
Who knows with Nintendo?
Yeah.
But like it doesn't feel like they're just going, we've painted the previous game, we ran the previous game through the dye shop, give us more money.
For all the people who were worried this was just going to feel like DLC, it's like, there are some elements that are structurally the same way that certain things worked in Breath of the Wild, but not only is, like, all of the content different and all of the tools you have to tackle it different, but I think from a fundamental perspective, it feels like they have taken the excuse of this world already exists and we don't have to set up the lore of these places, to just skip ahead a few years and dive right into what interesting stuff can we jam this world full of. Because if we've already made the world, we can focus on making new things for you to do in it and new stuff to interact with and stuff that is bigger in scope and scale. And, I can't wait for more people to play this, because so many of the little things I've started to dip my toes into, I'm like, I have so many opinions about, but I can't talk about until everyone's playing. I feel like Nintendo's got something special on their hands that, like, the only people I can see it really pissing off is if you are the kind of person who played Breath of the Wild and very specifically was like, I fucking hate that climbing up walls in the rain makes me slip, and I don't want them to give me a way to fix that problem. I want them to just take it away so that the rain just doesn't make me slip down walls. I don't want weapon durability to be made better. I want it to be gone. I want to just not have durable weapons. If you are like...
Are you talking about Steph?
I am curious how Steph's going to feel about it, but I feel like there are certain people who will knee-jerk reaction go, you've given me tools to mitigate the things that annoyed me about Breath of the Wild. I don't want tools to mitigate those things. I want those things gone.
Yeah.
You might be frustrated with this game, because this game takes things people have complained about and goes, but we believe in those mechanics. How can we reduce the frustration of them?
I mean, as much as the rain in the rainforest area, like, is it Faron?
Faron.
Really irritate the piss out of me on several occasions. What I fail to understand is, get Rivali's Gale.
Yes.
And don't go trying to climb up near sheer cliffs in the fucking rain.
Yeah.
You dipshit.
Yeah, but I mean, like, without going into specifics, there's one of them I can say because it's fine. If you find a cave in a rock wall, you can use that to ascend up a mountain in the rain now rather than try to climb it. Like there's a few others, but there are methods of mitigating these things. I think that is smart for not throwing away their world building rules that they are already committed to. But I know for some people they're going to go, no.
Yep.
And like, there's going to be some people who are going to go, this is too linear and not as hands-off as Breath of the Wild was, and they're not going to like that. There's going to be some people...
I hope those people will just get on with it and just make ridiculous fucking battle mechs.
I agree. I think there's going to be some people who won't feel like it's gone far enough towards the sort of traditional Zelda formula, but I'm really happy with this as a taking of Breath of the Wild and addressing a lot of the things that I found a little frustrating about it.
Okay. I am also amazed by the fairly simple ways they've managed to add whole levels of depth to places people have already been.
Yes. So yeah, we will, I'm sure a week from now, talk about this in slightly less secretive and slightly more in-depth.
But only slightly, because people won't have had much chance.
No, but a week from now we will, start talking about it in terms of...
We'll start openly talking about the first few hours.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm really digging it, and I can't wait to later this week just start a fresh save all the way over from the beginning, alongside when everyone else is starting to play it, and be like, let's all explore it together. Yay!
Well, I've got to rush through 12 hours or so to make sure I'm caught up to all the bits.
Oh no, I'm just gonna start over from scratch.
Yeah, but you'll know the things. It won't be fresh information to go, I am wowed by this.
Well,
yes.
I'm gonna take my time and not just gonna rush to those things again. I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna slow down on this one because I'm not trying to get through stuff to have review thoughts.
Or at least until you've got the paraglider.
Yeah.
Alright then, well, what else have you played?
Largely just more Zelda.
More Zelda?
I've been replaying Breath of the Wild. I
Yeah.
finished my Master Mode playthrough.
Hell yeah.
I beat...
100%?
Not 100%. I've not done all the fucking Koroks.
You did all shrines though, right?
I did all the shrines, I did all the DLC.
Didn't do all photographs.
Did all the memories.
No, I mean, they're pictures of...
No, didn't do
stuff.
Didn't do all the pictures of stuff. Couldn't be asked with the compendium, but I did all the memories. I did all the shrines. I did the DLC. I got most of the armor and upgraded all the cool ones.
What armor don't you have?
I don't know.
curious.
I haven't checked a comprehensive list, but I feel like I have it all. But no, I only have half the Zora set. I have the Zora top.
Oh.
I know there's more to the Zora set, I just never got around to getting it.
Oh, yeah, that's fairly easy to find. I
Yeah,
can point you at
there's
that.
a few bits that I just didn't bother to pick up, but
Like, Zora set's one of my favourite for just generally getting around the world.
no, you're right. I just, you know how it is sometimes. I was playing Master Mode. Everything was regenning health and very
Yeah.
murdery. I had other things on my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure I would want to play another Zelda in future in Master Mode, but I'm proud of myself for getting over that particular challenge.
She says until she gets to
we'll
Tears of the
see.
Kingdom Master Mode.
But yes, in my Fierce Deity set, I beat the game and had a great time.
I still need to collect a lot of bits of nature before I can build a Fierce Deity set.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I've now got all the bits for it.
Yeah.
Now that I've scanned Majora Link enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been playing through mostly just to get the horses and the fancy horse bridles. I've now got all the so I've got the monster set from Keaton.
Yeah.
I've got the
I've got that.
I've got the royal set that you get after talking to the person to get after you've got the white horse.
Yeah.
I've got the I haven't got the traveller set, which you need the Breath of the Wild Link Horse Rider amiibo.
Yeah. I think I've got that one.
I just haven't lucked into that one yet.
Yeah.
I have just picked up the what's it called? Like the exquisite armor, I think it is.
Oh yeah.
Which you need to do the show jumping mission for, which is a pain in the arse, especially if you happen to do it at night, because there's electric geese everywhere, and they will knock you off the horse, which is immediately dismissal.
Got the ancient set that lets you teleport your horse.
Yeah, that's the one. Oh yeah, that's you have to go and like scoop it out of the ground in 2 key locations that I won't spoil.
Something like that.
Yeah, the one I got today that I nearly threw my Switch across the room for, is the what's it called? It's the night set.
Oh yeah.
Where you have to go and do the horseback archery. The mounted archery course. So I went along, I got on the thing, I was like, I was reading a guide and the guide was like, Savage Lionel bows. I was like, I've got 3 of those, that'll be fine. They're like, bomb arrows. I was like, I got like 60 of those, that'll be fine. Went along on the course. Savage Lionel bow was not doing it for me at all. Like, I did the sensible thing, like, I saved before I went in, I didn't, like, let anything go to waste. I luckily had a bunch of Falcon's bows, because that's what I've been using to farm dragons with, because it's got really long range and incredible accuracy and like no real drop off, so it's really easy to like target from a moving object. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to switch to regular arrows and I'm just going to pinpoint all of these targets. And I did okay, took me a little while. Get lots of scores of 15, lots of scores of 16. Kept having to restart because I kept breaking all of my things. It's like, but it's okay, I am getting better at the thing. So I had one run, I got like 22, which is, you need at least 20 to get the first part of the horse armor. It's like, cool,
Yeah.
okay, got that one, save again. Didn't waste a bunch of stuff, I'm ready to go back in. Went back in, I was like, oh my god, I've hit my stride, I am ready to do this. I have hit every single target on this course. All I need to do is switch to bomb arrows for that last cluster of 5, because that lets me blow up all of them. It's like, ting, 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 ting. Okay, I've got all the thing. It started raining.
Fuck off.
My bomb arrows wouldn't light. And I couldn't blow the thing, so I didn't have enough.
I always forget that bomb arrows don't work in the rain, and I discovered that the other night when I was trying to farm Lionel guts. I was like, one of the last ones I needed, trying to snipe a Lionel from a distance, and I got a few bomb arrows off. It was doing great damage, using a really good bow, and then the rain started, and it just like dropped to the floor. This arrow, I was like, oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no.
Oh no, 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 no,
Oh no, 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 no.
Yes. And then I think that frustrated me so much that for like the next 6 runs I was only getting like 11 scores of 11. It's like, oh no. I've been frustrated into failure. And then I spent nearly like another 45 minutes doing the course again, only to realise there are slightly more targets than you need to hit in order to... You only need 23 and there's 25 on the course. I was like, oh no, I missed one. Ah, fuck, hang on, 24? Okay, I guess I've done it. That's fine. I'm walking away and I am never doing horseback archery again. Fuck you guys. But yes, I got those, and now I have that armor set, and I'm not even using it. I just have it. Brr. But I've got the giant horse. I've got the white horse, which is called Binky, of course. I have a black horse called Phantom, who is super fast, and that one has the monster armor on. And then I've got what's the other one called? Oh, Numpkin. I have little Numpkin who is super fast but very weak. And has only like 3 stamina, but I put the ancient armor on that, so it's super fast, plus it has boosted stamina. I was like, yay! Best horse! And hopefully will not get injured. I would be very sad if Numpkin got injured. But yeah, I've got all the horsey bits, and I've just picked up the rest of the Tingle costume, because I only had the hat. I didn't know there was any the rest of it.
Yeah.
I should have known. There's a fucking mission for it in my
the quest hadn't completed yet.
So I got that. I've also just picked up what was the other one? Something I hadn't got. I can't remember. Anyway, I had a whole bunch of fun running around in the pissing rain, being chased by guardians trying to get like the last couple of bits of the Tingle armor. I was like, yeah, this will be fine. Oh no, oh no. And it was dark as well, so I kept getting like Stal Moblins after me. It was like, no. But yeah, still enjoying Breath of the Wild. Shall we talk about more Zelda?
Yeah. So we've also both been finishing up playing Age of Calamity.
I don't know if finishing is accurate.
Playing as much Age of Calamity as we're likely to before Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Wrapping up as much as we're going to see.
I mean, this is the first time I played through the DLC, so...
How did you find it?
I appreciated the fact that the DLC, once you've hit level 78, and it's sort of feasible, that for the most part you can just keep doing those missions. They generate a huge amount of cash, and they will help you get things that will make doing those particular trials faster anyway.
Yes.
So you can just keep feeding into that. Like, the fact that you can, like, I think put, like, 40 extra weapon slots, which, if you're going for good fusion options, is absolutely essential.
Not having to so frequently go in and deal with your weapon slots is so nice.
And it's given me a better opportunity to, like, take time and understand that. Because as much as you can expand little bits of the weapon stash generally, it's never quite enough. But just going... Here's 2 quests. You do these quests, you'll get 40 extra weapon slots. Like, okay, I guess that'll do. I finally completed all the bits I needed for the little, what's it? Tremo? Tredo?
Oh, the little egg bot.
Trico.
No, I know its name, but now you said... Terrico. Yes, you said too many similar names and my brain was like, those are all I know now.
Yeah, I finally finished that quest and got all the bits for Terrico, who I have now upgraded, which means I can go back in and do that first EX mission and actually defeat Harbinger Ganon at the end, rather than getting the proper story where I get defeated and have to be fished out and saved. That was quite satisfying. Some of those missions are kind of bullshit. Find 3 Hydro Melons. There are literally only 3 Hydro Melons in this mission, and if you fuck it up, then you don't get another go at it. Those ones kind of suck. The one I'm stuck on at the moment is defeat 100 enemies with ice attacks, because apparently Cryonis doesn't count unless it's in water. I was like, Cryonis, that's the ice one. So no, it doesn't count. It only counts if you freeze them in the water because you've done Cryonis. And that sucks. I got the Master Cycle 0 for Zelda. That's just a ridiculous fucking weapon.
Yeah.
But in the funnest way, I love the Cryonis for that, because you just ride along the top of the blocks for miles.
Sort of ice staircase.
Yeah, and then you just ride along this sort of raised platform for a while. It's great against Hinoxes.
Yeah. Let Zelda ride a motorcycle in more games. Every video game, whether it's a Zelda game or not, should let Zelda be in it and drive a motorcycle.
Hell yeah. I'm enjoying the nunchucks. They are ridiculous as well.
Right.
I've got the strongest version of the nunchucks, and they are just...
Yes.
They're being they're now do 140 as their base damage.
Yeah, for anyone who's not played this, Link in the DLC for Age of Calamity can get a pair of what I can best describe as cyber nunchucks that can be used to steal weapons from enemies and create laser versions of those weapons to swing around.
Yep.
It's fucking great.
Which is great, because they always look so confused when you hit them with those weapons.
That is by far the thing that Age of Calamity introduces where I'm like, this should be a mechanic.
100%.
I don't know. Maybe it's in Tears of the Kingdom.
Maybe.
I want it to be there.
And I got the battle-hardened, or the battle-tested Guardian character, which I didn't even know was a thing. That was a tough fight. Kind of bullshit, but I now have that character, and I guess I can now play as a Guardian, which is weird and as clunky as playing as the fucking Great Fairies.
Yeah.
Also, I had a weird experience of one of the levels. Was it the Vi competition mission where you have to fight against all the female characters?
Yeah,
and you fight against the Great Fairy. And it's like, I had not really registered the scale while playing as them.
I'd only registered their scale when I tried to use them in a Yiga hideout mission. They
don't fit.
They almost fit.
Kinda. Weirdly, as much as I have enjoyed the ridiculousness of the DLC stuff, I've not really played with Pura and Robbie yet. They are interesting. I think I've done like one mission with them, which is their training mission. I have a giant chainsaw mech with them. That's kind of fun. The thing that kind of got me is Terrico occasionally clips through the floor.
Yeah.
Gets like stomped on or moved around through geometry in weird ways. Like there's a couple of times where I've just started falling out of a level and then popped back in. I'm glad I recovered because that would have annoyed the piss out of me. I've had weird things with the battle-tested Guardian where it's just like too big and seems to clip through the side of things. So it's fun, but also like doesn't feel nearly as polished as the base game, which is unfortunate, but very much enjoying motorcycle and nunchucks nonetheless.
Yeah.
But and I do like the fact that once you get the option to expand the shops, it gets much fucking easier to keep things like Goron Spice in stock. Because there are so many things like, yeah, you need like 20 Goron Spice for this. We say, you need that for food so I can hit harder. It's like, yeah. What else? What have you played? Have you played anything else?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about played stuff quite a lengthy amount this episode. We got a couple of little bits, where I know you've got another thing you played, but we played the Pillbug expansion for Hive.
Yes.
Which we talked about Hive last week, I think. It's you've got insects, they move in different movement patterns. It's kind of like chess, but with little hexes of insects. The Pillbug. Do you want to explain how the Pillbug works?
So the Pillbug special, because it can move one space around the hive, or it can basically pick something up from one position, put it onto itself, and then drop it to another position around it.
Yes.
Which is great for, this thing is pinning my queen. Well, I'm just going to send it away.
Yes, it's... The Pillbug is really fascinating offensively because it can break otherwise difficult board states by, like, moving stuff that is defensive walls out of the way to make spots in.
Yep, just popping the queen completely out of a gap.
Yeah, but it can also, as you said, it can be used to be like, I'm nearly entirely surrounded, my queen is just going to hop out of that carefully constructed circle you were trying to make.
Yep.
It pairs really interestingly with stuff like the beetle and its ability to lock stuff down. Because when you can cause pieces to hop entirely, being able to pin things in one place is a lot more important. It pins interestingly with the mosquito. Yeah,
it goes great with the mosquito, because the mosquito just copies the Pillbug and is a spare Pillbug.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just, like, whether it was the Pillbug expansion itself or just having played more of the game. I started to realise the importance of the mosquito a lot more once we introduced the Pillbug.
Yes.
Like, in terms of, like, the ability to double up a beetle or a Pillbug are both, like, really good offensive and defensive tools.
Yeah, good things to keep near your queen as a sort of ways to get out of problems or, like, stop enemies getting to places you really don't want them.
Yeah.
So it was cool to do that, and I am... like, our games have gone from being like, oh, this might be a couple of minutes, to what the game actually lists itself as approximately 20 minutes per game.
Yeah, and I mean, occasionally it's still like that, but we're getting more consistent at having more in-depth.
And I think we're getting better at spotting, like, where our fuck-ups are.
Yeah, like, I still don't have a good logic for, like, sensible opening moves, but once a board state is established, I can see the logic of how to progress it.
Yeah.
What about you? You played anything else this week?
Well, I played... I haven't necessarily played the Zor this week, but I keep forgetting to mention them. I played the first three The Room games.
Yeah.
Because Steam had a big sale on puzzly games, and I love me a puzzly game. So, the Room, or the first one at least, is... What if a very fancy puzzle box? You know how expensive puzzle boxes are? You know how occasionally you'll see people on YouTube who are like, I got this £10,000 puzzle box. Watch me work through it. It's like, that is a beautiful piece of equipment. It is amazing. It's got so many cool features. I love watching the people on TikTok who do, like, the carpentry skills of, like, I've made this amazing desk and it's got all these cool, weird features. but you'll never be able to afford it. So it's like, yeah, damn right. What if digital that, but now in your own home? Like, the first one feels both kind of like a mobile game, and I suspect it was available on, like Apple.
I might be wrong. I think one of them was an Apple Arcade thing.
Apple Arcade or, like, App Store exclusive type thing. The first one I really liked because it does feel like, here is a fancy puzzle box that you would never be able to afford. Do the thing. You get to live like the people who can afford to do very fancy puzzle boxes. And it's like, I'm really enjoying this. And although it, like, has some mechanics, there's this weird thing, like, you get a spyglass, like a monocular thing, and it's got a special lens in it, and you can see stuff that is, maybe it's in, like, UV type stuff, or maybe you can see through this weird material, but also somehow you're interacting through these particular green fuzzy panels, and that does something weird. So there is a little bit of, like, fantasy physics in there as well, but for the most part it does feel like a good logical, like, puzzle box type thing, which I think I appreciated coming out of that lovely escape room the other week.
Yeah.
The plot's a bit wild for the first one especially, and didn't necessarily feel necessary, but it's like, okay, fine, you had some ideas and you wanted to connect them all together. Very much enjoyed the first one, especially like, I found a puzzle box in a puzzle box. Oh, and also sometimes there's puzzly stuff in your inventory. I particularly enjoyed things like keys that work in two different directions. And that game has a couple of those, like, the keyway looks like this, but you've got a key that looks like this. Well, pop into your inventory, manipulate the key in some way, and now it goes in that hole. It's like, that's a really cool idea.
Hey.
I really enjoyed that. And the second one expands on that a little bit with weird key stuff, but also goes on this weird time and space adventure that I was like, okay, sure, if we have to. The ending was kind of weird, but didn't make a lot of sense. It was like, okay, I guess I solved a bunch of puzzles. It felt less like cool puzzle box that I had enjoyed from the first one, and more like, we invented a plot, and now we're going to go wild with it. So it was a bit more almost escape roomy, because it was, like, just larger scale stuff of, like, you're going to have to go over to this side of the room and move a mirror so that it points a laser at this other thing. And also the second one had a bunch of bullshit stuff of, but you didn't look under a drawer. No, I looked in the drawer. I didn't look at the bottom of the fucking drawer for the answer to a couple of things. And that was the only one time that felt bullshit. The third one is, again, very much escape room rather than puzzle box. And there's lots of, like, hey, you did this thing, and now you can go into a different room. You've solved the mystery to unlock that, but there's still stuff in here that's not been solved. But don't worry about that. We'll get back to that. Like, there was a grate on the wall that had, like, the bolts on it looked weird. And I was like, I think I recognise that type of bolt from one of the previous games in this series. And the fact that I can zoom in on the bolts implies that I'm going to get to do something with them later. But also I can't solve that right now. And you kind of have to get okay with that a little bit. Although that can throw you off in later puzzles. It's like, am I done with this tiny room? I've done, like, manipulated a couple of things, and I've got some kind of tool, and I think I know where it goes, but is there anything else in this room? And you do spend a lot longer just going, okay, is there anything in the background? Can I just click, 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 click? A lot of that, like, am I pixel hunting at this point, or am I done with this room? Because it hasn't told me it's okay to move on, and I know that this game is not above going, there is a little bit more, ooh-hoo-hoo. So the third one has got a little bit convoluted with that. I think I'm most of the way through it, but I did a 2.5 hour stream and I was like, I need to sleep.
Yeah.
So I will probably pick that up again on Thursday, but enjoying the third one better than the second one so far, even though, once again, plot is kind of bullshit. But yeah, it's a bit more fantastical, this one, but still, the puzzles have felt good at least. What about you? Have you played anything else?
No, that's about it for me.
Okay, we'll quickly talk about the fact that we played some Pandemic Legacy
yes.
Season 2.
Yeah.
So we have a friend group who have not played it yet. We played through Season 1 with them.
Yeah,
for the most part.
We've talked about this before. It's a sort of evolving board game that changes each time you play it over a series of rounds about trying to stop diseases spreading. Season 2 is sort of the inverse.
It's like, the diseases have already happened. Now, make sure that the people on the mainland are fed. Here is your, starting base. You are putting cubes onto the board, and the equivalent of being infected is they run out of supplies. The supplies are going away.
Yeah, so you're trying to keep cubes on the board rather than take cubes off the board, but there's the additional step of you have to make the resources before you can put them out on the board, and that's one additional thing that you have to deal with.
Yep.
And there is very little map when you start, and it's up to you to do something about that.
And it is still really fucking hard, especially if you are very much in the mindset of, classic Pandemic, of, we can just use the outbreaks as another timer. That's fine. It's not fine.
It's a fascinating little inversion that uses so many mechanics one-to-one from regular Pandemic, but feels so different in the execution. And, it changes so little to such great effect.
Like, the fact that you've got so few cities to start with, but there are multiple iterations of them in the infection deck. So it's like, we don't have to worry about London. London hasn't come up yet. But, sorry, we don't have to worry about, Lagos. Lagos has already come out twice. That's not going to be a problem. It's like, now we've got an epidemic that the third Lagos card has come off the bottom of the deck.
Yes.
It's like, well, actually, we need to do all of those again.
Yes, there are fewer places you need to be, but a place can become a problem so much quicker.
So much
and
quicker.
That change of balance is really interesting.
There is a real great need to make sure that you stay spread out and putting out fires, and only at the very last minute going, okay, I'm going to meet you somewhere and we're going to swap some information so that we can actually try and come up with some way of fixing these problems. But for the most part, it is just, desperately trying to put out fires with, and the game, announces right from the very beginning of, shit's fucked. We're not going to have enough food at the end of the year, so now is the time to solve the problem.
Yeah, you've got a year to solve everything that might be on this map. Go.
Good luck! And also, you can't see most of the map. Bye! And it's like, it's stressful. I think the same as in our game, in our test game, it comes with a prologue. It's like, hey, you don't know how to play this yet, and you probably don't want to get into the legacy aspect of this until you understand it and the rhythm of it. So we lost our prologue game in this game. We won our second one. It's like, okay, we kind of understand the rhythm. We lost January. Played January again and won. We lost our first game in February and won the second. It's like, we can win with 6 funding. We cannot win with 4 at the moment.
Oh, no, we could win with 4, but we couldn't win with 2.
No.
Wasn't it?
No, it was 4 and 6.
You might be right, yeah.
I only know this because I was the one making up the decks. It's like, but yes, it's tough, stressful, and requires very different skills while basically appearing to be, it's just backwards Pandemic. It's not just backwards Pandemic. There's so much more. But yeah, enjoying second playthrough, even if it is quite stressful. But it's stressful in a fun group. You know what they say about it being more fun with your friends, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is everything I've played.
Well then, time for this.
You know, AI, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, AI and, people are like, they're using it to steal all the art, and now they're gonna replace artists with AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have been working on my own AI.
Yeah.
I am going to completely replace a small minority with this, artificial intelligence that I have designed. Now, if you look carefully, right, what it does, you'll notice that it will throw a hissy fit, but that is all part of the programming. Deliberately so, right? It's not just, offensive for no reason, and it's not just a chatbot, as you might expect. It gets weirdly offended about things and makes a lot of tweets. Occasionally tries to buy a company. Luckily, I've pulled that back. But this is my AI billionaire, and I'm using it to replace all the real-world billionaires.
Oh, yeah.
And once they've gathered all the money, right, I'm just going to redistribute it all, while also having completely replaced all of the real-world billionaires. We just don't need them anymore. They're surplus to requirement. And then I'll just turn the program off, and we don't have to worry about billionaires anymore. Yeah. Oh, look, it's trying to buy itself now. Oh, yeah, you keep calling me a slur, you little twat. Oh, bloody hell. I see you've rearranged the living room somewhat.
Yeah, sorry. I was, trying to find combinations of things that would make my living room experience superior.
Okay. I mean, usually I just hoover.
Well, it's fine. See, because I've been using the new fuse ability.
Right.
That I learned from Zelda,
Yes.
to do some fusions. So I fused the remote, for the TV to this string.
Is that my green therapy putty?
No, it's fine. Okay. I fused the remote to the string, and now I can bring the remote over without having to get up and disturb Smudge.
Cool. Would you not just... yeah, okay.
Yeah. So other things?
Mm-hmm.
I fused this ice cube with this drink. I made a cold drink.
That's good.
Fusion.
Cold fusion. You've discovered cold fusion.
I've cold fused. I fused this Zelda game to my Switch, and that produces fun.
Yes. That is the nature of that device.
Fusion.
Yes.
I'm gonna fuse me to you for this hug.
Oh, okay, I approve this. Oh, and Smudge too. This is I like the fact that we can double fuse things.
Yeah.
Now, do you think we can fuse the three of us with ice cream? Yeah. So, what have you put in your eyes?
Well, what have we put in our eyes? We finished watching The Good Place.
We did.
That is such a tightly packed, polished show.
Yes, it is.
That show is concise, without feeling rushed, and gets so much into 4 short seasons.
Oh, yes. You don't even notice the fact they're 22-minute episodes. We talked about this last week, for anyone who missed last week's episode. It's a show about someone who has died and finds themselves in the afterlife, but it's okay, they're in the good place.
Yeah.
And the conceits that follow that, I don't think we've given many more spoilers than that, but many, many things happen along the way, and we learn lots about various schools of philosophy and schools of thought about what it is to be moral and so forth throughout the course of the story. And it's fascinating and beautiful, and in, what are we saying, 4 hours per season?
Yeah, about 4 hours per season.
And maybe 5 for the last one, because that last episode, I think, is about an hour long, or at least 45 minutes. And it's tightly packed story. The end will basically be, if it's, let's say it is 45 minutes, that's going to be 35 minutes of just uncontrollable sobbing.
Having watched this, all back-to-back in quick succession, I think a thing that is to this show's credit is how smoothly it transitions what the show is trying to be very effortlessly multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
It goes from starting as essentially, it almost feels like a pastiche of very typical, predictable TV sitcom energy, into, by the end, being, quite an in-depth, complex discussion of the flaws with a lot of schools of philosophy and a lot of ways of viewing religious views of afterlife and morality that doesn't...
And in some ways the practicality of what certain schools of morality, philosophy, and whatever religion comes under
theology.
Theology. What that practically means, because it's one thing to go, oh yes, it's an infinite thing, and everyone is happy all the time, and they sit on the clouds playing harps, or whatever your version might be. Is like, yes, but what would that be like?
Yes, but it does that while, having commentary that feels very apt and present of the real, the current real world, without feeling like it's ever getting bogged down or preachy. It's just... It effortlessly does that without making it feel obvious that that's what it's doing, while still being a fun, sweet, character-driven story. It is a superb piece of TV start to finish.
And, see, I mean, from my point of view, I wouldn't say it managed to be preachy, but, you grew up way more religious than I. So, do you think there is anything in there that anyone might find is sort of preaching at them?
No, I think that,
or going, you're wrong. Because it never seems to take that attitude. It's just no, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's almost what you thought it was,
I think,
not.
The closest I think it gets to being preachy is nothing to do with religion. I think the closest it gets to being a little on the nose, critiquey, is the Good Place Council in the latter seasons definitely seeming like a critique of, supposedly left-wing political parties that don't actually get anything done because they're too busy with the decorum and the process of things rather than just doing things that will make things better for the people that they're supposedly the people there to protect and better. There's a bit of that that's a little, maybe a little on the nose critique of, the state of certain political parties today, but, the religious stuff, I think it's pretty clear of, we're not gonna say that one religion... they're very clear to be all religions are mostly right but a little bit wrong.
Yeah. And that's, very early on. There's, everyone got it kind of right,
most
except for Doug.
Except for Doug. Yeah. I think that by going, look, most religions got it about 95% right, but we're just setting this in a world where, it was something kind of like what everyone believes. I feel like it sidesteps a lot of the things that could cause outrage that I'm surprised at how well it danced around causing upset.
Yeah, and still leaves room for interpretation of all manner of things. But yeah, by the time you have been on this adventure and fallen in love with some of the characters, or indeed come to hate some of them, that last episode is beautiful and soul-destroying. And I'm getting weepy thinking about it. What else have we watched?
I watched a couple of YouTube videos I can quickly talk about.
Yes.
I watched a video... we watched some of it together, and I watched some more of it. My final Breath of the Wild speedrun by Limcube.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one we were watching yesterday when we had dinner, the All Shrines Breath of the Wild speedrun. Trying to go to and complete every single shrine in the game in as efficient a route as possible. It was an interesting little look at stringing together multiple hours of speedrunning tricks, and because it's a 5-hour-long speedrun, it was interesting seeing how many things you have to consistently back-to-back do to make it work.
Yeah.
It was an interesting one. It's well commentated. It's good and informative. I also watched a video called Paw Patrol's Dark Secret Explained by Skip Intro.
Okay.
Which is a video that, on its surface is, making the fairly low-hanging fruit observation. The children's show Paw Patrol, about a series of dogs that are emergency services characters, is
propaganda?
Kind of copaganda. And, it's easy to point at it and go, there's a dog that's a cop, it's copaganda. But this video kind of digs more into some of the things that this show sort of reinforces in interesting ways. And, I'm going to boil it down to, one example, which is, no matter what kind of emergency this group of dogs is faced with, no matter what the nature of the emergency, the police dog, Chase, is always sent on the mission. Other dogs sometimes come, sometimes not, depending on their relevance to the mission. The police dog is always sent out in every single case. And looking at that in the context of, like, in the real world, how we sort of overuse police and send police to situations they are not trained for because they are the de facto assumed response that, like, it's always good to have a cop there sort of belief, and how that is perpetuated in the treatment of this police dog.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it, but, like, basically a lot of the, like, yeah, sure, it's a dog that's a hero in that's a cop that's a hero in a kids show, but there is a lot of, like, real world attitudes towards police that are weirdly reflected in how Paw Patrol as a show operates. What about you? What have you watched this week?
Oh, well, talking of things that are a bit heavy, I'm gonna talk about a thing that was a bit heavy. So I watched Trauma is Trauma, a mental health talk with Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith, creator of things like Clerks and Clerks 2, and the Clerks animated series, and the Clerks comic books, and other stuff. I'm being facetious. I think anyone who's watched a decent amount of his stuff, especially things that aren't just the films, will have some idea that he's been on multiple journeys throughout his life. And apparently, within the last few months, had kind of a breakdown, involving just complete self-depersonalization. It's like, that is... yeah, I can see why you needed to get some serious therapy for that. And he talks about the not recognizing your own trauma. Like, oh, it wasn't a big thing. I didn't get hurt. I didn't lose an arm or anything. I wasn't seriously wounded. That's not trauma. It is though. It happened to 4-year-old you. And content warning for multiple things. Obviously, talk of addiction, CSA, and just poor trauma responses and misuse of drugs. I'm not going to mention it here or relate it. Go watch the thing if you want. It's like 35 minutes long, and it starts as a talk about, first of all, like, I ended up in therapy, or ended up as an inpatient because I was just completely depersonalized. Smoked too much weed.
Yeah.
Let the personality that I use for out in public.
Yeah.
Like I think we both talked about it, like the on.
Yes.
This is me on. This is on me can do no wrong. On and generally, I mean us less so, but other people who are like, yes, I need that personality, otherwise I cannot get up and do in front of people.
Yeah.
And going to therapy, and in some of that even be group therapy, like at the facility that you went to, and being like, yeah, and I'm there, and there's like war veterans and shit. It's like, okay, well, I mean, group therapy. I can't. I feel like I can't follow up the I watched a bunch of my friends die.
Yeah.
With this happened to me when I was 4.
Yeah. Feelings are complicated.
Yeah. It's a very interesting, like, 35-minute, 40-minute talk about mental health problems, addressing them, and not downplaying just because you haven't had the same experience as someone else. So, yeah. It's a good talk if you think you can manage it.
Yes, gotta be in the frame of mind for it.
Yeah. Not just the guy who makes a lot of dick and weed jokes.
Yeah.
With his friend in multiple movies. Yeah, worth a watch if you think you are feeling good for that. Important messages.
Yeah.
And what about you? What have you watched?
That's about it for me. It's not been a very watched-heavy week.
No, we've been busy. What we have watched is the consoles in our hands, let's be honest.
That has been a lot of it.
Well then.
Time for this.
Hey Laura, we've we've got a new sponsor.
Oh, tell me about the new sponsor.
Well, do you like video game?
I do like video game.
Do you like video game and sometimes go, I had an amazing experience with this. If only I could have that first time again.
Oh, that first time experience really is quite unique. It's I'd love to have the first experience again.
Well, come on over to likethefirst.lol.net. They will stab you in the brain with needles.
Oh, I'm not sure I like that.
We'll just gloss over that. Sorry, I should have said that faster. They will stab you in the brain with needles.
I didn't hear what you said, so it's fine.
Remove something in memory.
Didn't hear that either.
And once your memory's gone, you'll be able to experience... And then you'll be able to experience it for the first time.
They're gonna stab me in the head with needles and steal some of my memories, aren't they?
Not steal. Just delete a bit.
I mean, it would be good to be able to play Breath of the Wild like I'd never played it before. That would be kind of magical.
Right? I know, for me, if I could play Wind Waker, like for the first time again, there was a lot of trauma following me around that particular part of my life. Some of that might get zapped as well. That I wouldn't have a problem if that happened.
Oh,
yeah,
please.
Imagine if I was just disabused of that particular problem.
mental connection.
Yeah, I'd just be like, yeah, Octoroks, yeah, I'm going to see, woo, woo. Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be great. So that is likethefirst.lol.net. Enter code Q&PS 260. I think I'm pretty sure I know which episode we're on this week.
Maybe.
Yeah. I was right last week.
Oh, look at you go.
I'm pretty sure it's 260. Anyway, enter that code, and you can get 10% off your first 4 games.
Oh.
I'm going to get Day of the Tentacle and Wind Waker.
Oh, nice.
Hell yeah. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I've been looking at the player numbers.
Right.
And
Going up. Ever up.
I mean, look, here's the, general trend. Numbers go up, numbers go up, numbers go up.
Yeah. I mean, we just had that new DLC.
Exactly. Numbers have been going up like crazy.
Nice.
Except, literally today, numbers go way down.
Why numbers go down?
Numbers
don't
are
go down.
almost zero.
Are you doing the thing that I did last year where I held the chart upside down for a bit?
No, because if I turned the chart upside down, it would look like most of the time we were going down, and this was a spike, but we were usually going down. We're usually going up. This is a fall. And I think I've tracked down what happened.
Right.
Apparently,
Who did this?
Well, no one here, unfortunately. Apparently, a new prophecy of Zebdo came out.
Again?
Yeah.
Didn't they have one of these 5 years ago?
Yeah, 5 or 6, but apparently, it's the big thing. It's all anyone wants to play. It's apparently real good. Oh, it's so interesting.
I mean, I want to play it now. I know it's
yeah, I know, but we can play it because we're executives. We get, we make the money. They shouldn't be playing it. So, how do we psychologically manipulate everyone back to our game? Because, they're having fun with that game. How do we get them to play this?
Can we turn Zebdo into some kind of milkshake dog?
It's going to be tricky to do that if they're too busy playing Zebdo to notice our attempts to milkshake duck.
Can we make the company that makes Prophecy of Zebdo seem like they're horribly heavy-handed and very anti-consumer and the kind of people that shut down fan projects or
it's already publicly known that they're like that, and apparently their games are so good that people just don't care.
Right.
I've got a strategy. I don't know if this is going to work.
Right, yeah.
I don't think we can win people back by, making our game more fun than theirs. It's Prophecy of Zebdo.
That's never going to happen.
Never going to happen. But good old just emotional psychological manipulation.
Right.
What if we make a new skin or a new gun or something like that is absolutely outclasses anything currently in Call of Duty?
Right. And we make it limited time only. You have to get it during the first week of Prophecy of Zebdo being available.
Exactly. If we crunch the interns to get this made right now, and we go, you've got to be playing real loads of hours this week, or you'll never get by far the only competitively viable gun.
Right.
We can't outfund them, but we can make the game they've already bought essentially no fun for them anymore unless they play it this week specifically.
You are a fucking genius.
I know.
So, what have you put in your ears?
I'm gonna be honest, it's largely been Breath of the Wild soundtrack, while trying to formulate thoughts about Tears of the Kingdom. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of, put Zelda music on that I can find a soundtrack of online to get me in the headspace to go, what do I think about Zelda? That's been my week.
Yeah,
Just been Zelda music.
It was kind of weird, at one point today, going through areas that I don't tend to go to a lot, obviously, otherwise I'd have got the horses considerably earlier, and going, actually, the theme music for this area is music that I heard in Tears of the Kingdom, but I hadn't heard it in so long, because I don't usually go to those places, and I didn't recognise, what that is. Whereas playing Tears of the Kingdom was going, it's putting me on edge.
Well, I'm anxious.
This music is making me anxious. For obvious reasons, if you know all the musical cues in that game, it's like, oh, hang on, it's fine. That's just what this bit sounds like.
Yes,
I've not been here in a while.
It just sounds reminiscent of a sound that makes you terrified.
Yes. Well done, music. You've done the job that music did.
You've Pavloved a terror into me.
Yeah. Unspeakable horrors beyond my squid-based imaginings. Yeah, I've been listening to old stuff again. I've listened to a little bit more Night Vale. Not much more to say on that at the moment. Another Dessa track for the music.
Yeah. Do you know what the track was?
It's something Fire Drills, is it?
Oh, Fire Drills. Fire Drills is a fucking great track.
That was at the point that album was coming out. So
yeah.
I'm at that point in, I think, 2018.
Yes.
It's interesting. Lots of things I've been watching recently converged in around 2018.
Yeah. So Fire Drills is a track off of, I think the album's called Chimes. Absolutely fantastic album. Fire Drills is one of my favourite tracks on it. That is a track that is just very directly about womanhood often being boiled down to the idea of having to have sort of things like whisper networks and being defensive and keeping yourself safe through your actions from people who are not always safe for women to be around, and being womanhood cannot be defined by, as the song puts it, a life of running fire drills, of being constantly practicing what am I going to do when the bad thing happens, and trying to take some degree of ownership and control back in that situation. But it's such an interesting piece of music in terms of how it mixes its sounds together. There's a lot happening in that track.
Yes, which is why it fits very well in Night Vale.
Yes.
But, yeah, I enjoyed it. I heard some of that, and I know you're a big fan of the Dessa. Listen to just a bunch of old mixes. We had a couple, just 2 days of really nice weather. So I had a couple of nice long walks, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to listen to podcasts. I know I am running behind on a few podcasts, and I need to catch up. It's I just want to listen to some actual music and enjoy walking in the sunshine.
Yay.
Even though I am currently trying to keep all my fresh tattoos covered up and or covered in sun cream. But it was nice to just go up and wander around some green spaces and listen to a bunch of mixes. I listened to that DJ Gamma, Do You Want to Build a Snowman mix, which is ridiculous hardcore all the way through in the way that Gamma do. And a bunch of the Jam On It Productions bounce beats mixes. They're all an hour and a half long. And I think the channel is still up on YouTube. I got all of their mixes many years ago. They're probably about 12 years old now. But it's lots of Wigan Pier bounce type stuff. Usually with samples of whatever was pop music, whatever was interesting pop music 12 years ago, with very donkey bounce over the top of it. That is about everything I've listened to.
Well then, time for this.
Do you ever?
Yes.
Would you like more?
No.
Have you?
Maybe.
Will you again?
Perhaps.
Do you want more of and less, but while not paying too much for the...
I don't know.
Your problem over. Now all things solved. Don't worry. You won't have to. Instead, just $69.99.
That's maybe a good deal.
Money, please.
I mean, what is it?
I'll start again. Do you ever? Oh, God, I forgot it was a bank holiday.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have only got enough meds for today, and we have to get through 2 more days before the pharmacy is open again.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Okay, well, I guess there's only one thing for it.
Is it finally time?
It is. I hope. Well, I think I've watched enough videos. I think I understand how to do this.
Okay.
So, if I give you this bottle,
Yep.
and then I'm just gonna knock this bow and drop it, and knock this bow and drop it, and knock this bow and drop it, and knock this bow and drop it. Don't ask me where I got all these bows from.
Okay.
The bow store was open, funnily enough, but not the pharmacy. And I knock this bow with 3 arrows, and I drop it. And I knock this bow, and I drop it. I knock this bow, and I drop it. I knock this bow, and I drop it. Now, have my legs disappeared?
Should they have?
Oh. Okay, I knock this bow, and I drop it. I knock this bow.
There they go.
Okay, my legs have disappeared. Now, I go into my menu, and I... Okay, yes, now I'm just a floating head, but I'm going to appear to pick up all of something. Now, you can't see that because you can't see my arms, I'm guessing.
No, I can't.
Right, now I'm going to sell you this nothing.
Okay, I purchase your nothing.
You can feel it though, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Now, hand me back the jar.
Okay.
That's a full jar.
I have a handful of nothing.
And my legs haven't reappeared.
You do have
do you
meds.
have enough meds to get me through the weekend?
What if I put the nothing where your legs were?
Well, that feels weird, because I can feel them. Ah.
It's fine. Save and reload. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, I mean, definitely saved now I've got all the meds. Now, do we have any cake left? Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social justice warriors.
Social justice warriors?
Yeah.
All right, Larry.
Right, Barry, how you doing?
Oh, mate, I'm, all my sore bits have been very, very sore at the moment, I'll be honest. You doing alright?
Same, but, I've been a bit frustrated watching all the stuff with the Royals recently.
Oh, yeah, it's a massive waste of funds, while also, it could be going for helping with all the food banks, and imagine how much food they could have given to people.
Right. It's a whole load of expensive wankery for posh trats, but particularly been annoyed watching all the heavy-handed response to not just protesters, but also people who weren't protesters who were just tangentially maybe similar to protesters over the coronation weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of, the teams that go out and look after, homeless people and make sure they're, they're as safe as can be out there while still remaining unhoused. And, groups like that, a lot of them tend to carry things like, rape alarms, things like that.
Yeah, and those were getting, confiscated and those people arrested for, well, what if you used them in protest?
Yeah. The Met Police responded saying, we'd had a threat that they were a group were planning to throw rape alarms at the king as part of the coronation to cause a disturbance. So we shut down anyone we caught with such a personal alarm.
As a side note, as someone who has been to some protests in the past, rape alarms do actually make a fantastic non-violent protest tool. If you grab a bunch of them, pull the pins and just throw them, can really, really non-violently disrupt a place for a while.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Indeed.
Yes, they are as overwhelming as they are intended to be.
Indeed, but beyond that, we saw just people who had placards that said, simple messages like "Not my king."
Yeah,
being arrested and having their signs confiscated, and we've seen in the days since the Met Police in London. Trying to justify their actions.
Oh, of course, the people who, are constantly heavy-handed, misinterpret the law and don't seem to have any proper understanding of the law beyond, I am the Met Police, and therefore I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Well, see, here they've given I'll tell you the justification they've given, which is, well, the coronation of a king is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and therefore, discretion dictates that, we, limit the right to peaceful protest a bit more than we normally would, because special circumstances. And at its core, the problem with that is pretty obvious, which is, if a right can be restricted, on the whims of something as nebulous as a once-in-a-lifetime event, it's not a right. It's something that you are being gifted that could be taken away at any moment.
Indeed.
A right is an inalienable thing. It is a thing that you either have or you do not. You don't sometimes have it to certain degrees.
Yeah, it's not a right. It's not nothing fundamentally enshrined. It's just, we will choose to be this way with you today.
Indeed.
Pray we do not make it worse tomorrow.
And particularly when you look at something like, a royal coronation, not being able to peacefully protest something as fundamental as a new person who will be, a ruling monarch of a nation. If you cannot peacefully protest the, undemocratic coronation of a literal monarch of a nation, you do not have the right to protest if you cannot go, I don't like the new king. Peasants hundreds of years ago had the right to go, I don't like the new king.
I mean, you might have been beheaded for treason, but...
but you at least, you could go, the new king, not such a fan.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm sure the Met Police are just waiting for their vague suggestion by Swilla Braverman or whoever it happens to be in charge on any given day, saying, "Oh yes, police-mandated axes. Yes, feel free to deal with the treasonous at any point."
Well, I think
they'd love that.
The slippery slope is it doesn't take much to take a leap from you cannot protest the coronation of a monarch to you cannot protest a sitting politician. Just getting on with their jobs. You can't protest
love that.
Yeah, I feel it's not that far of a stretch.
They've already talked about shutting down anything on the BBC that might make the Tories look bad. They wanted more, less of this left-wing satire. Supposedly, they shut down. What's the comedy news show? Mock the Week.
Yeah,
they shut down Mock the Week 6-8 months ago. Well, because they didn't want they didn't want politicians being made to look stupid, and they have control over the BBC, so they were like, yeah, we'll get that done. And when Channel 4 kept mocking, they were like, well, I think maybe it's time we considered getting rid of their license to broadcast.
Yeah.
Luckily, so far nothing's come of that, and as many problems as I have with Channel 4 over various things, it's kind of shit that even that level is being attacked.
People with power. If you have the right to protest anyone, it should be the people with the most power. The more power someone has, the more right you should have to protest them.
Yeah.
And the idea that someone is a influential enough figure that they become so important that you're not allowed to peacefully protest them anymore is a terrifying precedent to see set, and something that people need to wake up and see what has happened for what it is.
Yeah, people like to talk about all the suffragette jets. You see there's all these pictures of them historically wandering around with their placards. It's like, yep, they did get a lot done, and they certainly did that, but they also weren't afraid of bombing things. So, do remember that if you take away people's rights there, and they feel that there's no other peaceful cause, they're given no right to reply in any way, that people do tend to fall into slightly more aggressive tactics when they feel that they've got nothing to lose and no way of being heard beyond that. That's not a threat. That's just something that happens in societies. That has been the case, and has been the case throughout history, but apparently Britain's been fairly well placated for the last few years. That's young, mate.
Oh, I was just about to say the same.
Yeah. Good dog, mate. Good dog.
Good dog.
Right, I think I'm going to pop the kettle on.
Oh, sounds lovely.
Nice.
So, Laura, you do things.
I do things.
You do things like a book that is called Whom Hunts the Whale. We did that together.
We did that together. You can read a 4-page interview feature with us in the current issue of MCV Develop.
We made the front page.
Yeah,
There is a picture of us in there.
Yeah, we got mentioned on the front page, and there's a full colour 4-page spread in there that's all about us.
I know,
It's
and
very
I
cool.
like the way they chopped up the cover to make all the artwork for that section.
Yeah,
It's very cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah, they were very nice, and you should go check that out.
Yeah.
And also, if you haven't read the book, it's available at unbound.com/book/whale. If you like all the stuff that Supremacy Software does, or rather, if you very much don't like the stuff that Supremacy Software does, it's about them. Give it a read.
Also,
You do have other book though.
Yeah.
Tell us about the other book.
Well, I've got
Because you
many.
cannot be stopped.
I have many books, but the newest one to talk about, which I believe is releasing on October 19th, 2023,
Hype.
is Stories of Autistic Joy, which is, hey, if you read Gender Euphoria and fancy more books in the vein of group that doesn't often get an opportunity to just talk about their joy without having to also talk about, the negative stuff going on, and about how joy looks for, their community. If you enjoyed that about Gender Euphoria, this is a anthology about the autistic community by a bunch of different autistic writers that's in all but name, it's another one of those. I've done another Gender Euphoria, but
Euphoria.
I've done Autism Euphoria is what I've done here. I've followed a very similar approach with how I wanted to focus these stories and making sure that I got lots of people from lots of different perspectives in to tell lots of different kinds of stories. That's Stories of Autistic Joy. It is releasing October 19th this year. I'm keeping up that streak of about one book every 6 months. I can't keep it up forever, but I've kept it up for a while.
Oh yeah. So if you are the kind of person who, whenever your particular minority is pictured in film or television or on the news as having that one scene that's always really depressing, but probably doesn't happen nearly as much in your own life, and you're like, I wish they'd just show something other than trans woman puts on makeup in mirror every morning and talks about how depressing it is.
It's a book of things that's like, hey, let's not have the media depiction where it's person obsessively sitting and organising things and that's being looked at from an outside perspective. What if we had an autistic person that wrote a story about hey, I love organising things and lining things up rather than actually playing with things. Let me talk to you about why I find that joyful and bring you into my internal experience of why I find joy in the thing rather than, oh, look at them, they're doing the thing. That's weird.
Let me talk about my joy rather than how I inconvenienced a neurotypical person.
Exactly. It is trying to talk about the internal experience of joy that can exist in unique ways for autistic people and trying to explain why the things that we find joyous are the way they are.
I am very excited to read other stories in this.
Yeah, you did a story for this.
I did do a story for
You're
this. I
in
did a story
there.
for Gender Euphoria as well.
Yeah, you did. You do stories for anthologies, I do.
Yeah. Who said it was just Who Hunts the Whale where we wrote together?
Yeah.
We wrote together all the time.
Other than that, Laura K. Buzz everywhere. Just Laura K. Buzz. You'll find me on all the stuff. I got that good unified branding.
Yeah, you do.
What about you?
I've got a link tree to cover for my lack of unified branding. It's linktree.ee/Janiac, Janiac. You can find the things I write, the t-shirts I design, the music I make, and this podcast, among other things. Also, go check that out if you want to. My most important one is patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify a 76-hour work week. You can help me get to 30 Patreons. I'm so close, I'm on 29 right now. It would be awesome to make that up to a nice round number. But I appreciate everyone I have already. And I would love to hit 50 by the end of the year. Or that is the big dream. But it's a ways off right now. But yeah, that anything you can do will help, as little as $1 a month. Sometimes the little tiny amounts in regular doses is the thing that really do big help. I think that's everything. So Laura,
Yeah.
will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.